All right, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get going. Welcome to the Waste Free Future Summit, our first one. Hopefully, there'll be many, many more. We are doing this series of summits, of meetings this week, so that we can continue with Just Zero's overarching vision and really do this up this week in a way that we're really excited about. First of all, as many of you already know, Just Zero is a national nonprofit that works on zero waste issues. We are soup to nuts on solid waste. We work on composting, we work on plastics, we work to stop incinerators and landfills from expanding, and we work to stop spreading sludge all over this country, all over our farmland. We really believe that we shouldn't be helicoptering in to tell folks what to do. We know that people have expertise in their communities and they know what can get done and what should get done in their communities. But what we want to do is help you to do it. We want to make sure you know what the playbook is for the big corporations. We want to make sure that you know what the best policies are that have worked in other places. And then we want to help you to modify them so that you can do it in your own counties, cities, states, and maybe someday we can get something done in this country of ours, in this great country of ours. So thank you so much for coming. We'll be talking all this week, a series of different events, which you probably have already seen. I hope that you can come to all of them. There will be recordings available. We are being recorded right now. There will be recordings available so that you can look them up. You can share them with other folks. And as we'll be talking about in our events, we've created a beautiful set of toolkits, kind of a choose your own adventure, where you can say, gee, I'd really like to have a composting program in my city, and look and see what kind of an ordinance makes sense for you and choose your own adventure to put that ordinance together. Of course, you can call us for help, but we know that there are a lot of folks who need this information in hand, and once they have it, they can run with it and get it done. There's nobody that I can think of who is better for us to launch this summit off with than Diane Wilson. I'm so excited to have her here. I saw Diane speak, I think 10 years ago at a Toxics Action Center yearly event. She's a fantastic speaker. We're so lucky to have her. But the reason that I'm especially excited to have Diane here is because Diane represents everything that Just Zero cares about. First of all, she's real. She's a hard worker. She gets it done. She gets shit done. Second of all, she is home based. She cares about her community. She cares about Texas and the Bay there. That's why she's done this work, because she's a fisherwoman, a shrimp catcher who's been working for many decades on this, but also is grounded in her family doing this work. So if you haven't read her book, An Unreasonable Woman, after this presentation, you're going to want to. I'm going to be giving it to people I know for Christmas this year because I've read it. It's fantastic. And you want to have read this book, but also are going to really enjoy hearing from Diane today. So what we're going to do today is Diane is going to give us a presentation, tell us about her career and all the incredible hard work she's done, again, to protect her home and to protect her from some of the most powerful interests in this country. So I want you to hear that story. Then we'll be able to ask some questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A and we'll hand them over to Diane afterwards, and I'll moderate that piece. But for now, sit back and enjoy Diane because she's a fantastic speaker and we're so lucky to have her here. Thank you so much, Diane, for being here today.
Oh, you bet. I'm glad to be here. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Well, as she said, I'm a commercial fisherwoman. I'm a fourth generation. My family have been fishermen, and they have lived in this part of the mid-Texas Gulf Coast for over 135 years. So these bays are my home. It's like I grew up with the sounds of boats and the winds in the sea my entire life. So the heart of our community was the bay. And when I got involved in this, might say, plastic fight with the petrochemical plants, I knew absolutely zero. I was a fisherwoman. I have worked oyster boats. I have did crab boats. I've fin fished. I went after shrimp. I'm a dang good net builder. I can build a shrimp net. But that was what I knew. I had 5 kids, and at the time I was working at a fish house because shrimping was really getting bad. And that's when my my unexpected life into the environmental field got started, because that was the first time the toxic release inventory, the community right to know, first was made public. And I'm sure you all know that that was because of Bhopal, India, and what happened there. And so Congress pass this bill so community people would know what is going on in their communities. And lo and behold, I had a shrimper come in and throw a newspaper on the desk down at the fish house, and it was my county, a tiny rural county on the Gulf Coast of Texas. I think the entire population probably wasn't 17,000 people, the entire community. And we were #1 in the nation for toxic disposal to the land. We had half the waste that was generated in the state of Texas. And that's when I began my unexpected environmental activism. I was 40 years old, and I have spent the next 36 years fighting these plastic companies. I am 76 years old now, and still fighting. So never say you're too old for this. Never say you're too young for this. There is always the time is right now, you know? And so anyway, what you're going to see in front of you is the kind of plastic that I have dealt with, that I know. And I think probably most people, when you hear about plastic trash, you're thinking about these huge zones in the Gulf of Mexico and over in these other countries, and all that's plastic that is washing up the bottles, the bags, and but this is what is in my community, and it's pellets, and it's what you call the petrochemical plants when they make it, the plastic plants that are lining up the entire Gulf of Mexico. All of these chemical plants, they are putting out the resin, the powder, the nurdles that make the bags, that make the bottles, that make the plastic toys that are probably 2/3 of the inside of your cars. And and most people have no knowledge of what plastic plants do. I think most people think they just made the plastic, sent it off, and what you found in the waterways in the ocean and on the beaches, that was the plastic problem. Well, no, folks, it not only starts with fracking of pulling it deep from the ground, but it also has a very heavy impact on a petrochemical plant in your hometown, and especially along the Texas Gulf Coast, because they love to get it. They got to have water to dump their trash, to dump their plastic, for their wastewater discharges, for their stormwater outfalls. And right here in front of you is some of that plastic, what these companies, and the one I'm talking about is Formosa Plastics. What you're going to see on the top right, those are pellets. I think most people have heard it called nurdles. I don't know where that name nurdle come from, but the workers in the chemical plants down here, this is pellets, and they are polyethylene and polypropylene pellets. And if you see to the right is a mixture of pellets and powder. And down below on the left, you'll see that's plastic powder floating on the bays of the Texas Gulf Coast. Next. And as I mentioned, I'm a 4th-generation fisherwoman, and we have not only shrimpers, we have oystermen, we have fin fishermen, we have crabbers. There are Vietnamese communities, there are Hispanic communities, and then we also have a large recreational fishermen that use these very waters where Formosa plastics and other plastic plants are putting their discharges and are running their stormwater outfalls into. Next, please. And this is Formosa plastics. Many of the plants look just like this. It's probably at this point $7 billion invested in development. It's 2,500 acres. It has 3,000 workers. It has 17 units, and they probably put out 1 trillion pellets a day. Next. And a lot of people, they don't understand how the plastic gets from the plant. If you see that the photo on the left, if you look in the background, that's Formosa Plastics. It's a huge petrochemical plant, and it is right next door to the community of Point Comfort. The schoolhouse and the homes are right across the street. And they have a huge underwater discharge that puts out probably around 9 to 10 million gallons of wastewater per day. If you look toward the right, and this was what not even people who are generally know a bit about the plastic industry, they don't realize the stormwater outfalls, because you have a plastic plant that is making plastic. They have extruders, they've got crackers, and they've got incinerators, they've got cooling tires, and they are making plastic and losing plastic all of the time. And in those plants, there are workers whose main job, and you ask any worker you ever meet, and what is the most important thing you can do, and it is production, and I hate to be a little French with y'all, but I know I've talked to many workers, and you'll ask them what's the problem at the plant, and one of my workers that eventually became a waterkeeper, he said it's balls to the wall. It means you push production 130%, so you're losing plastic everywhere. And when you have to get another a reactor going, another cracker going, is if you got a problem, if you've had an upset and there's plastic and there's a vinyl chloride slurry all over the places, you have to get it cleaned up fast. And so what happens is there's these ditches that run all over that plant, and the workers inside the plant, they're trying to get it cleaned up so they can put another batch online, and they are washing it out, the stormwater outfalls. And a stormwater outfall, you would think that's where you put rainwater so a plant doesn't flood. And it's like, my friends, it's where a slew of plastic is reaching out to our waterways. Next. And I and so I was talking about the different ways that plastic is lost, and it gets into the wastewater system, and it goes into the bay, and the way it gets into the stormwater outfalls and goes out into the rivers and creeks is this is photos that I got from a whistleblower inside the plant, and I also got them from the EPA. And if you see that top left, that is plastic powder, probably got pellets all in it too. And that's a stormwater. It's cemented. It's right by the unit. It's sitting right next to a unit. And as you can see in the unit, you see that white stuff, that's plastic powder from the process. And it goes straight into the stormwater outfalls, and it goes into the creek. And you see down below, that is an upset. And that is what the worker who was he was a shift supervisor of the SPVC unit, means a specialized polyvinyl chloride. That means whatever the customer wanted, they made PVC powder to fit their demands. But there is so much of a push for production. A lot of times there's upsets, and that left below, that's what an upset looks like. And there is plastic 5 stories high. It's all over the unit, and it goes out into the fields. And as you see on the right, that's the lower density polyethylene warehouse. And there is plastic all over the place. There's polyethylene, there's polypropylene, there is PVC warehouses, there is vinyl chloride warehouses, and there is specialized polyvinyl chloride. Next. And again, this is photos that the a shift supervisor at the SPVC unit recently gave me. And when we did our lawsuit, this worker was a witness at our trial to show how this plastic plant is losing pellets all over the place, how it gets on the worker, how it gets in the field, how it gets in the storm drain, how it gets all over the wastewater system. So you have a bay that has been contaminated for 36 years. This has been ongoing, and this plant, the state nor the EPA ever fined them one single time. This has been ongoing for 36 years. And that top right, as you can see, there is an upset. You can see that flare. They're having an upset. And that big vacuum truck you see, it's the largest vacuum truck they have. It made 3 trips to get this little incident of polyvinyl chloride slurry that's all over the unit. And as you can see, the third, it was so heavy, they had a tire that blew out. So it's sitting there with a blown out tire. And the bottom left is on the 5th floor of the SPVC unit. And the powder is all the way up there. And as you can see, there's no doors. It's open. It goes to the open fields. In the bottom right, that's just some of the stuff. Vinyl chloride, think vinyl chloride, think ethylene dichloride, think benzene. This is the stuff that is on the units that comes out of these crackers when they have process upsets. And not only are workers being exposed, but the bays and the creeks where these plants exist are getting exposed. Next. Again, this is one of the roads in at Formosa. As you can see, the one on the right, it's the storm ditch, and all that white stuff, that's powder, and it will get washed out when there's a rain or when the workers are told to clean it up, and it goes straight to the rivers and the creeks. And that photo actually came from the EPA. They went in and took those, and I got a copy of the inspection, and nothing was ever done. Next. And a primary way that there is pellets and powder or resin that is lost is when they load up these train cars and ship them to these downstream places, like where they make plastic wrap and where they make these one-time pieces of consumer product that you only use once. And they are leaking out, one, when they load them into the cars, they leak when they take them down the railroad track. And here's just an accident right in the rail car. That big white area you see, it's probably 1,000 pounds of pellets. Next. And this is what it looks like on our riverbanks, our creek beds. This is plastic pellets, and it is powder intermixed. And when it comes out through the stormwater, it goes up on the banks because it follows the flow of the rivers in the bay, and it covers the banks. And matter of fact, when they did a cleanup recently, they had to dig down 3 feet in some places with an excavator, a huge machine like a Star Wars type of machine. It was huge, and they had to dig it 3 feet down to scrape the amount of plastic and pellets and powder that was there. And this is the bank at Cox's Creek. Next. And this, and it doesn't only get in the water, and it gets in the mud. This is vegetation. This is powder coating the aquatic vegetation alongside a creek bed. Next. And this is, when I finally, after 36 years, I finally got tired of Formosa denying, and you will find that most of these plastics company totally deny that they put out any plastic. Matter of fact, I had a meeting with Formosa, and they had about 12 supervisors from the units, and I asked them how many pellets they were losing, and they said, not a single one. We saw them all. That was one of the biggest lies I ever heard from them, because we spent 2.5 years, just about 4 of us, like 3 workers from the plant and myself, and we went out into the creeks and we collected 2,500 samples of illegal discharges. And this is what one of the samples looks like. It's like a shovelful. That's a pool net. One of those big pool nets you put in your pool to get up the stuff. Well, that's just one. Next. And this is, there's, all these beautiful aquatic vegetation, flowering ones you see out there. Well, this is the roots. Sometimes it's those roots of those plants. They go down 2 or 3 feet, kind of floating in the water. They're embedded with pellets. They are polyethylene, polypropylene pellets. And, I remember when I was trying to tell a scientist or a biologist that, if you're going to clean up this creek, you better look at that vegetation because the roots are coated with them. And they're like, oh no, pellets don't go down 3 foot. And I'm like, and I just pulled one up, and they're everywhere. They go everywhere. Next. And this is what powder looks like on the water. And it's just coating, and it's like, and they've been putting this out for 36 years and have denied it. They've been able to get tax abatements. They've been able to get any permit, any air permit they wanted. And they do this to our community and to our children who go out swimming in this water, and to the fishermen who ply the oyster beds and are looking for shrimp. And this is what we deal with. Next. And this is, again, this is one of what it looks like when I tracked down all of Formosa's, all of their stormwater outfalls. They had 10 of them, and I didn't know where they were. So I really had to be like Huck Finn out there on a boat. And I had a little kayak, and I put it in the water, and I literally hunted for these outfalls because they were hidden sometimes in the grass and they're hard to find. And was after one particular spill from the stormwater outfall. And you can see it's solid pellets. And you wonder what type, the amount that you can lose here. During discovery, we got from Formosa at one of the stormwater outfalls, and there's 10 of them. At one of them, in one day, they put out 170,000 pounds of pellets into the water. And that amount, if you calculate there for every pound of pellets, there's 22,000 pellets. So for that one spill, it was probably over 4 billion pellets that went into the water. And as I say, this plant has been doing it for 36 years, and I imagine most of the plastic plants have been doing similar. And the one on the left there is this matter of fact, he's actually he was a shift supervisor of the PVC unit, and he was working with me. And if you look close, that is floating water, and it's full of powder. And he just put the bottle down and siphoned it right into it. Like I said, it was part of the 2,500 samples that we had. Next. And this is what the outfalls look like. The one on the left is outfall 6. This is the unit that had the 170,000 pounds of pellets that was discharged. And this is when you're having rain. I think at this point there was 3 inches of rain, and it totally overflowed everything. It was flooding the storm ditches. It was flooding the catwalk. And a catwalk is where a worker goes and he tries to put a fish net down and try to pull up some of the pellets, but it was totally washed out. And the one down below, this is stormwater outfall 8. It's big enough that you could land a plane in it. And there is a number of those that are that size. Next. And this was my team, and they were workers from the Formosa's chemical plant. And most people think that the key enemy of a worker in a plant will be the local activists. Well, when workers cannot go to their company because they will be fired. They can't talk about it. They can't talk about exposure. They can't talk about wrongdoing. They can't go to the local county officials because they are getting donations. They're getting computer systems. They are getting defibrillators, or they own a contract at the plant. You can't go to TCEQ. I went to TCEQ one time, which is the state environmental agency, and the investigators pulled me in the back room, handed me a file, and said, "You do something with it." And it's like, so this is really what goes on. This is the dirty secret about the plastic industry. And the guy down below kind of looked like the Marlboro man down there. He was a whistleblower, and he was one of the guys who told me about all of the pellets. I knew a lot about the powder, but I didn't know as much about the pellets. And as you can see on the left bottom down there with fish nets, picking up plastic. And as you can see, Formosa was always putting up little fence lines and telling us no trespassing. They always did that. Okay, next. And this is what we spent almost 3 years doing. Almost every single day, we went out into Matagorda Bay, Lavaca Bay. We went to Cox's Creek. And we collected samples of plastic that Formosa was discharging illegally. And we had, and you might ask about our lawyer. It was legal aid. If you don't have money, go to legal aid. And that's who we went to. And they just happened to have an environmental lawyer. And we filed a citizen clean water suit because if your state environmental agency and if the federal government does not enforce violations, a citizen has a right to do it in the Clean Water Act. And that's what we took. We put it in that's a goat cart over there. Someone loaned me a goat cart. That was probably over 22 million pellets. We took it to court, hauled it into court. We had witnesses from the workers, and we won. We won. So you should know you can win these. It takes some persistence. It takes some doggedness. I won't deny that you will be called crazy a whole lot, but we got zero discharge of plastic from this facility. We got enforcement, we got monitoring, and we got cleanup. And in addition, we won the largest citizen clean water suit in US history. We got $50 million and we put it all back into the community. And now we put 20 million into a fishery cooperative so the fishermen who are struggling to survive can survive and build up their communities. Okie doke, folks. That's about all for me.
Diane, I'm just gonna fangirl out here for a second because first of all, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your hard work. As all of us in the advocacy space know, we know how hard this is, and I just appreciate your work from the bottom of my heart. I'm literally choked up right now thinking about everything you must have gone through, because anybody who's worked in their community against a powerful special interest that's polluting the community, and I've had this experience. Your elementary school teacher might be mad at you because their son's got a job at the factory, right? Your the kid who used to date, is now a rep in town and is pissed at you and then realizes you're right and comes on the side. Like all these personal interactions, especially when you're trying to protect your livelihood and your family, it's incredibly emotional, and you really have shown such toughness and such strength of spirit. You're just a total warrior woman, and I'm just so impressed by you. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you very much. I don't hear that down here.
Well, I know, right? And you don't hear it in your community because a lot of times your community is at odds and conflicted, and there's a gray area, right? But so thank you so much. I just want to start by saying that. I heard some themes, and there's a couple themes that I'd love you to like to expound upon if you could. One theme is, again, making sure that you have actual folks on the ground doing, getting these samples and bearing witness and having the courage to do that.
That's
How
right.
did you get folks from folks who are concerned about this to folks who are invested in doing the work with you? How did you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, basically, it was the workers from the chemical plant. And the thing of it is these workers came to me because this is non-union industry. And so a worker cannot just go up to their supervisors or management and say, I know what we're doing, and the SPVC unit is wrong because we're instead of cleaning up the environmental pollution, we're washing it down because we're trying to get production up again. You cannot go and tell that to the company because they will fire you, which they did. Matter of fact, the supervisors of the SPVC unit, he was making $180,000 a year. And that's what he went up because he could not believe what they were doing. And he told them, and they fired him. And so he went to different people trying to get them to talk to him. Like I said, the local officials, they either actually have jobs with the company, or they are getting, whether, like I said, I know one supervisor, he was of security, and he found out they were paying off a senator. And so he went to them about that wrongdoing, and they threatened to kill him. And so he went to the sheriff's department, and the sheriff said, we can't do anything because we're getting a computer system from them.
Oh, right,
So it's
exactly.
like,
And I've seen this with incinerators, with landfills, with other facilities that we're talking about. And sometimes it's totally legal, like $1,000 here for, in Revere, there's a beach, sand castle building contest every year, and the incinerator gives money to it every year, right? Like that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
my question is, so did you start doing this work and set up your organization, and then people came to you because they started to understand it? Or did you find out from the workers and work together? How did that, because that's the part that's always important, right? It's getting labor involved. We don't do a good job of that in our environmental movement,
First of all, you got to know I've been doing it for 36 years.
Yeah.
I was ground zero on stupid and knowing absolutely nothing when I started. And I know when I first did my first meeting, and believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I find it very hard to talk to people. I find it very hard to be around crowds. But anyway, I acted out of character, and I went down to my city hall and said, I want to have a meeting about this. And so they put it down that Diane was going to have a meeting. The next day, I had that same lady at the fish house and said, Diane, you cannot do this. It's like, this is putting up red flags. We cannot have it. You got to stop doing this. And I'm like, and I had no idea what she was talking about. It's like, I haven't did anything. What did I? And it's like red flags, red flags. And then she was pretty assured that I was not going to have the meeting. And then the next day, I got the bank president, who I'd never talked to a day in my life. He came down to the fish house in a three-piece suit, and he said, and he didn't even know me, but he was talking to me real friendly like, and he said, Diane, are you fixing to start a vigilante group fixing to roast industry alive? And I'm like, so that was what it was like. I got blasted from the very beginning. It was like one, and it just so happened we were not only number one in the nation on the TRI, but that was when Formosa decided they was coming to Texas. It was the largest chemical expansion in Texas history. And they were going to give them the whole ball of wax, the whole enchilada. Is like they were going to get all the tax abatements. They were going to get all the visas. They were not going to have to be questioned about their environmental record in Taiwan. And so when I question it in this little meeting, they couldn't figure out who I was, and it's like they thought I was a spy hired by Louisiana to get the chemical industry project kicked out of Texas and go to Louisiana.
They're missing, like, you're so secretive. I don't know how anyone thought you were a spy,
They
Diane.
really did. So I have been fighting this and trying to have meetings. And when I had my first meetings, probably for the first year, I had industry there more than I had the people there. And the people got scared of them because I would have industry with a video camera, with a stenographer. I had Chamber of Commerce. Believe it or not, Chamber of Commerce became the worst. They would have all of these business people, all of the mayors come to my meetings, disrupt it, and say I was a crazy, hysterical woman and I didn't know what I was doing.
So,
So
so,
that
so let me see
is
if
what
so let me see if
that
I'm
is what I did. But the thing of it is this plastic lawsuit, this happened when I was in it over 30 years.
right.
So I have been working, trying anything for 30 years. And on this one, you learn. you just learn. And and also you get very, very stubborn about it. And so these workers came to me because they had been exposed, they knew bad stuff, and they had had enough. And so, and I listened to them and I tried to help them, and I did research, and they gave me information. And so they actually became my water keepers, these workers in the plant.
Okay. Okay, so tell me if I'm getting this right. So you, because you were so rooted in the community and you were stubborn as hell and you're a hell raiser, right? Tough as nails, but you have people who love you in the community. You were not leaving and you started making noise about it. And they would call you crazy, call you hysterical because you're a lady,
Yeah.
let's say, so you're going to be called hysterical every time. And then you just kept on to the point where the workers themselves who knew how bad this
Yes.
were coming to you. And then
Yeah.
people in the community, because one of the questions we've got is other people in the community. How do you, because you need it to be a big tent of all different types of folks, right?
Yeah.
So you've got
Right.
workers, you've got fisher people, like of all types. And then I assume you had business owners in the community and other people who live in town, and it kept coming in the area who kept coming to you. What other folks did
Well,
you
see, the
draw with
thing of
this
it
movement?
is the majority of the people, the majority, not the injured workers, not the commercial fishermen, but the majority of the people were intimidated by the power of the chemical plant. And so they would come up to me secretly and say, I like what you're doing, Diane, but I can't stand up because
Yeah,
they couldn't even get a loan at the bank because for
right,
most of
right.
it in the bank. And so I had people say, I like what you're doing, but they wouldn't stand up. If I had a press release, nobody would stand up with me. I was on my own, but I had the workers help me collect the information. And the reason why they eventually came to me is because I was so persistent. And if I had one thing I tried to keep very clear, is I kept my integrity about it. I got so many people trying to bribe me all the time. It's like, so I did everything, and I did it as a volunteer, and I've did it for a volunteer, and no money, anything from anything ever. I wouldn't ever take anything. And
I think the
I
most fun
think
thing is when
they
someone asks
trust
you to
you.
bribe you, they try and bribe you. Isn't that the most fun thing
Oh
ever?
my God, yes, they definitely try to bribe you. Definitely. Definitely.
I've had that experience and it's awesome because you're like, no, I'm going to
And
tell all my clients and
but
all
they
my
still,
homes.
a lot of people still do not get that people can have a real love for the bay or for the planet. And they're like, they'll come up to you and say, really, Diane, what are you doing this for? It's, it's like, I guess it's in their mindset is they've lost faith in that people do things for the right reasons, or because they believe you want the planet, or you want your children safe, or you want the bay for itself. I remember when I first started out, even lawyers would tell me, they'd say, Diane, do not say you're doing this because you like the bay. It's like, say it's your livelihood. It's like you would be considered a real nut if you
Yeah.
said you love the bay. And it's like, there's that, Diane, don't say that. Don't say that. And it's like, I did. I had a
Well,
great passion for the bay.
so my team is texting me that I'm going off the questions and I don't care
Oh,
because I just have to ask you this because so I'm totally with you. And I guess the question I have for you on this is twofold. One, do you think that your ability, your connection to your home and your love for your home and the people who live there is stronger because you're a woman and you're more bold about it and more open about it? If they're pushing back and saying to you, don't talk about this emotional stuff,
uh-huh.
right? Right? Do you think though that that's what kept you going through all this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I have had a lot of people say, how come you have persisted for so long? And it's because I have such a love for that bay and for my community and for that part of the Texas Gulf Coast that it is like family. And it's like the saying, you draw a line in the sand, and it's like nobody better cross that line. And I always said, you're not going to get that bay. I don't care what state of Texas gave to Formosa, and they gave them everything. It's like they're not going to get it. And when they say there's nothing you can do about it, is like, I always thought of something. That's why I did a lot of civil disobedience. I did a lot of civil disobedience.
every time you did a a hunger strike, I thought to myself, I can't even keep from eating a cookie. I don't know how this woman's
Uh,
doing this every time, but and there's real
Bigger
power in
than
that.
yourself. It's only when it's bigger than yourself. I would, if I was going on a diet, I wouldn't be doing worth a flip. But
Well, that's good to
before
hear
that
because I've
day,
been intimidated
for
by
that
that.
day, I could do it. Something bigger than
Well,
myself, I can do it.
Diane, again, I think that in these times that are very fraught right now, all of us have been, worried about the world. I appreciate again, you are a warrior woman, female power all the way, which I love. Hellraiser. This has been fantastic. We've all learned a lot. There were a couple questions about the EPA's role, which I think that you pretty much covered as far as
Yeah.
the EPA knew and the Texas
Nobody
TEQ
did
knew,
it.
and that they were letting it happen and let you do the work. So
Yeah.
there's again, please look Diane up. Please buy her book because I think it's fantastic. I think, look, there's lots of great articles about the work she's done. I want to just let folks know before I say goodbye to Diane, we've got upcoming sessions going on. We've got zero waste legislation is our next session at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope that you all can make it. And then we've got a couple tomorrow and then one on Friday as well. So I hope that you can make it and meet some more of our Just Zero team and some of our other fantastic guests. Our other guests are also excellent. I don't know if they're Diane worthy, but they're also excellent. So, please come and see all of them. And Diane, again, thank you so much for all
Thank
your time and all your hard work. Keep on keeping on because it's obviously kept you not only you're getting the work done, but it's obviously kept you engaged and happy and healthy. And I just love to see it. So thank you so much for being part of all of this for all of us. I think we all
that.
say a big thank you to you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, everybody.